في المرحلة الأولى.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. The Prime Minister's electoral agenda focused heavily on achieving sustainable development goals, and further to that, 10 billion tree tsunami project was launched, which has resulted now in to revive forest and wildlife resources in Pakistan. 1 billion trees further to that have been planted since then. Thousands of jobs have also been created. As a result of that, the Prime Minister has been invited to speak on various climate action forums, one of which in Saudi Arabia. At the Crown Prince's invitation, he will take part in the Middle East Green Initiative Summit. We'll be talking about his visit to Saudi Arabia and its ramifications for Pakistan. Also, the things on the agenda as far as the Middle East Green Initiative Summit is concerned. Also, he expects to talk about issues of regional importance, one is being, of course, Afghanistan, and also investment issues with regard to furthering investment in Pakistan, dealing with our economic issues, furthering our ties with Saudi Arabia. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Shakil Ahmed Rame, who is an economist. Thank you for being with us today. Javed Rana, who is a senior journalist. Thank you for joining us. Umar Kareem, who is a visiting fellow with the RUSI London. Thank you for being with us. And let me go to Shakil Saab. Shakil Saab, like I said, of course, it's also because of the trees planted further to the Prime Minister's Sustainable Development Goals that, of course, is important as far as this Middle East Green Initiative Summit is concerned. And I think the Crown Prince has said that he is, looking forward to having the Prime Minister's input on these goals and how it will further I think he's referred to these experiences. He wants to learn from this experience from Pakistan's Clean and Green Pakistan, the 10 billion tree tsunami programs, all of that. Do you think, how do you see this visit? What do you see as, of course, we have close ties with Saudi Arabia. We've always had a very close relationship with them. But how do you see this particular visit at this time?
Look, there are two things we can look at that. One, you talked about in detail about the Green Initiative. I think it's a good, the plantation drive has attracted many countries, but we have limited things to offer Saudi Arabia. Because we have to keep in mind, there is only 1.5% land of Saudi Arabia is arable land. Where they can go for, at the large scale, they can go for plantation or other activities. But for their clean initiative, a green initiative, they are more talking about how to move from the fossil fuel towards the clean sources of energy. Then they are talking about conservation of water, because conservation of water is the biggest issue in Saudi Arabia. Due to the lack of water availability at a larger scale, they are not able to convert their land to be for the productive agriculture use or some other uses.
Which is also now an issue for Pakistan.
So also issue for Pakistan, but the things we are talking about what Pakistan will be sharing. So that Pakistan will be sharing their plantation drive. That is the only thing we have in kitty. We talk a lot about on the climate change, but unfortunately our climate change has come to the plantation. So most of the times we are missing other adaptation things. That is other thing we will talk some other time. But other things, Pakistan is relation, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia close relationship. I think if we want to build a future relationship with Saudi Arabia, we have to see their vision 2030. And we have to analyze what opportunity and what challenges that vision is offering to Pakistan. Number one, if you look at the challenges, every year Saudi Arabia is producing 175,000 jobs, and they need 350,000 jobs for their own youth, not for the abroad. So that would be a challenge. That means they are not able to produce jobs for their own population, how they will be accommodating the people from other side. One thing and second thing, they are moving towards a smart economy and diversifying economy. In that economy, there would be a need of skilled labor force. Right now, we were sending there the unskilled labor. So that would be a challenge. For example, if they have committed under this plan, so they will bring their GDP from the non-oil products up to the 50% export at that area. And they are also increasing their share of non-oil products sector in their economy up to the 1 trillion real. So in that context, they will be modernizing their industry, especially tourism and their other investment, and they offer the things. But there are also opportunities where we need to focus. Number one, food. 80% food Saudi Arabia is importing from the world, and their biggest importers for them is Brazil, USA, Australia, India, and these countries. And Pakistan share is very meager, and especially in the term of the halal food. We have a huge market there. If you look at their fresh meat, these things. But more important, if you look at their second goal, which is very important if Pakistan really want to venture. In 2016, their total production of their defense products was 2%. 98% they were importing. They have made sure, they have made a commitment in Vision 2030. They will enhance their production capacity as a domestic contribution up to the 50%. That is the area where Pakistan can go and venture with Saudi Arabia. Because our defense relations are very strong with Saudi Arabia. And we have many things to offer at this point of time. If we talk about the jet, if we talk about the missiles, if we talk about the other defense products.
Right, you're saying some of the areas where we can have this kind of cooperation is of course food and also you mentioned defense and all. We'll come back to that. Ji Javed Saab, do you agree? You think that, let's talk about how you see your perception of this visit of the Prime Minister.
I think at the heart of this visit is obviously the bilateral negotiations. And what we badly need. I think Saudi Arabia once again can help Pakistan to give us oil on deferred payment at a time when we need US dollars badly to raise our foreign exchange reserves. So I think that would be one of the key issues that is going to be part of the bilateral discussion that Pakistan's Prime Minister will have with their Saudi counterparts. So, but again, then obviously we have to see the bigger picture in that part of the world. And the Saudis have not been very comfortable with the US administration, particularly since Joe Biden took over. And Joe Biden has been saying that his administration is going to focus on the human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia. And even, unlike the past practice of Donald Trump directly interacting with the MBS, Joe Biden made it a point that he said that he will only speak with his counterpart. And then there were indications suggesting that the USA is no longer as much interested as it used to be in shielding Saudi Arabia and providing it to the kind of the defense it needed from the perceived threats from Iran. So I think in that bigger context, some sort of discussions would be there, and Pakistan has some role, because the bigger fact for the Saudi Arabia, in the light of our relationship, because we have a kind of a loose defense pact with the Saudi Arabia, a defense agreement with the Saudi Arabia, and usually we say that we will protect the holy sites, the holy cities. But I think we have gone much beyond that. Our military has been training Saudi military over the course of the decades.
Javed, let me come back to you. We have with us Fahim Hameed, who is a senior regional analyst. Fahim, could you tell us how you see this visit of the Pakistani Prime Minister in Saudi Arabia at this time? How do you think, how will it translate in terms of our future bilateral relationship, and also particularly for Pakistan also and Saudi Arabia both?
Assalamu alaikum to Pakistan ancient Pakistan leadership. It's my privilege today that I will be distinguished guest on your side. In fact, if my voice is clear?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Is it clear, or should I make it louder?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, and when we speak about the Saudi-Pakistan relation, we are speaking about the history of a relationship which was the biggest tragedy for the Muslim Ummah. So Saudi Arabia as the leader of Muslim Ummah, Pakistan is a strategic partner to Saudi Arabia. They consist of twin ships to safeguard the interests of the Muslim Ummah. We are not going to speak today about the bilateral relation, because the bilateral relation has, time tested, and it goes to a decade of, strategic partnership throughout the, of Pakistan being into this war. So I'm quite sure that the visit of the Honorable Prime Minister to Saudi Arabia this time, although he's going to attend the Green Middle East session and Saudi Arabia's Green session, which is highly important, attended by head of states and several top specialists in this field. I can assume that the bilateral meeting between the high-level Saudi leadership will give another milestone to this relationship.
Right, but in terms of, because of course Pakistan also wants to focus on investment, the Prime Minister has been speaking about how he wants to explore investment opportunities in Saudi Arabia. Further to that, do you think, how do you see that development? Do you think that will of course translate into something sustainable as far as Pakistan is concerned?
Yeah, certainly. Why certainly? Because if you are, and I'm sure you and your distinguished guests, they are fully aware of the establishment of the Saudi Park Coordination Council. So this council, it will give institution to all activities and bilateral relations. And among that, for your information, there is a lot of subcommittees which include investment committee, financial committee, trade committee, oil and gas corporation. So that council, which His Royal Highness and the Prime Minister has signed the memorandum of understanding on that, which is already now operational. That will be the cornerstone for a larger relationship and more cooperation in the trade and investment and also oil and gas. Saudi Arabia now is going through a very mega project, as you all aware, Neom, Amala, the Giddiya, and several new projects, which we feel that Pakistani investors can come and join hand with us, and we can invest together.
Fahim and Hameed, please stay with us. I will come back to you. I want to go to Umar Kareem. Umar, we've been talking, I hope you've been following, we've been talking on the fact that of course in terms of economy, in terms of investment, oil is a huge issue at this time, and Pakistan wants to explore potential in Saudi Arabia on that. Do you think that, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that it's good that both sides are re-engaging. Like 2 or 3 months ago, Prime Minister Imran Khan had gone, and there was a rapprochement between the two sides, and now again there is this visit. Although this is part of the Green Initiative, which has been launched by the Saudi government, but there is something fundamental which I think both the sides need to address, and that is the bigger picture. The relationship shouldn't be transactional, that whenever we are in need of economic assistance or petrodollar assistance, we go to Saudis, or when the Saudis are in need of some sort of security assistance, they come to us. Both sides, and I think that to some extent the leaderships on both sides, they did acknowledge it in 2018-19, but then there was this damp time period in the relationship. But again, the need is Pakistan may get this deferred oil facility from Saudi Arabia, and this may have some positive effect on the Pakistani economy. So there is some sort of a relief from Saudi Arabia. But the real thing is, where are the strategic investments? where are other foreign direct investment, particularly what is the status of the oil refinery which was first supposed to be built in Gwadar on Saudi funding, and now it's I assume that it will be built in Karachi, and certain other projects which will further anchor Saudi Arabia strategically within Pakistan. So in a manner, if Pakistan fails, there would be impact on Saudi Arabia. Till now, the relationship is very much transactional, and on another plank, which is, I think that we need to understand this, that the overall, some people, they actually, it's been a bit exaggerated, the Saudi-Pak security dynamic. I mean, Saudi Arabia, every week there is a Houthi drone attack on Saudi Arabia, and so, and then there were drone attacks and missile attacks on Saudi oil installations. But Pakistan didn't picture into all of these episodes or into all of these events in any way, and also. So in a way, Pakistan has become distant from the broader spectrum of Saudi security. So Pakistan doesn't have that leverage on Saudi Arabia as it used to have in the past. While the Saudis do have leverage on Pakistan, because the Pakistani economy remains dependent upon remittances sent by our expatriates living and working in Saudi Arabia. And on another hand, we need this petrodollar assistance in the form of deferred oil payments or simply money being deposited in our state bank. So I think the key here for both leaderships is to focus on the broader perspective of the relationship and long-term strategic ties that go beyond these sort of transactional dynamics. If they manage to have some breakthrough in this regard, then I think this would be a real achievement.
Right. Umar, I'll come back to you. Shakib Sahab, do you agree? You think that it's, I mean, in terms of what transactional relationship, which is what, two of our participants also mentioned, do you think that we've had that kind of relationship? Of course, foreign policy is dictated by, to a large extent, by what, what countries need from each other. There's no, I mean, the reality of politics all over the world, a relationship between countries, bilateral relationships, is that. How do you see it?
I think if you look at the politics, what is happening in the Middle East, right now, Saudi Arabia also have an issue with the UAE, especially when they have put bans on their certain type of the leverage they have given them after agreement with Israel. So Israel's role cannot be ignored in the region. One thing, and second thing, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia relations, they are mutually beneficial. It's not like that only Pakistan is benefiting or Saudi Arabia, but both are benefiting.
So whether you call them transactional or you call them of mutual benefit to each other, I think it's a different way of looking at it.
So I think it's mutually beneficial, and we have sustained that relation. Despite all the hicks and hicks, we continue to, our relationship continue to grow.
Right.
And that we have seen in the last 1 or 2 years, we saw that people were starting to say people started to say like that everything is so Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are opposite, but still they managed to move along. So I strongly believe this relation will move on in the positive direction. One thing, and second thing, on sustainable basis, we have to look, as I mentioned earlier, the Vision 2030. We have to carefully analyze that. Second, there are opportunities through the CPEC. Why I'm saying this? If you look at the statistics, Saudi Arabia is the biggest exporter of oil to China. They are taking the long route, they are supplying their oil, and if they are supplying the oil through the CPEC and they are putting the refinery here in Pakistan, that can be much cheaper for China to buy and much easier for Saudi Arabia to transport. And it will decrease the per container cost of travel and the cost of delivery. So it is possible, one thing, and second thing, agriculture. Saudi Arabia, after especially Middle Eastern countries after COVID-19, like Kuwait, Qatar, and UAE, and even Saudi Arabia, they are in search of the sustainable food security. They are looking for the avenues from where they can get the food, especially during the COVID. They face the problem to get the food at time and the quality food and the fresh food. So Pakistan, being a nearby country, Pakistan will fulfill their need and demand of food.
In terms of export, Pakistan can export, the food industry is something we can explore.
It's a huge industry we can explore. If you can imagine the population of 34.81 million people, and their 80% food is imported. You can imagine the quantum of it.
And you think, I mean, in terms of a market, it's a huge market.
It's a huge market, and advance. And third thing is,
but we haven't been able to do that in the past.
So that is another problem. And even now we are facing when I'm mentioning about the skilled labor. In New Saudi Arabia, they will be in need of a skilled labor, and they will not be in need of unskilled. Then they will be sending back unskilled labor of Pakistan. Then they start to create a hue and cry that look, they are sending back. No. It's a demand of their market, a demand of their economy, what they need. For example, if they have to make the tourism, they have made the tourism one of the biggest sectors for the development in the future. For that purpose, they need to prepare people who are best in the service sector, like who are good as a waiter.
You think to benefit, we need to have skilled labor?
Skilled labor, because definitely they will import what they need, not what we are offering them. It is a very common rule in the business and in the economy. You have to sell the things what the customer want to buy. You cannot sell him anything else.
I think it is not transactional. Maybe that kind of impression has been created in the last couple of years when there was a change of guard in Riyadh. But historically speaking, this relationship have been very strong, particularly when Pakistan carried out its nuclear test. Saudis came in a very big way. And that was unprecedented when Pakistan came under sanction. So we can't call it transaction historically.
So they bailed us out on
but again, now the situation has been changing. I mean, Saudis has not been as forthcoming as they used to be historically during last couple of years, and part of the reason is that Pakistan had given a very cogent, very logical reasons not to be part of a Yemen war. And I think the track record and during last couple of years, it has been proven that what Pakistan had advised to the Saudi Arabia, it was precisely right. Because Pakistan didn't want to be driven into a kind of a sectarian insurgency. And unfortunately, now Saudi Arabia has been under attack from what it calls Iranian-backed Houthis. And those attacks have been very frequent. And if some reports are to be credible enough, Pakistan still have a role to play in having some kind of reconciliation between Iran and Saudi Arabia, because Saudis don't have a good relation with the American administration now. Situation has changed altogether. There are reports now which is suggesting that now Americans are pressurizing Saudi Arabia to recognize Israel, and Saudi Arabia is coming up with preconditions, and one of the preconditions is to restore the relationship with the USA at a level which existed before. And then there are other preconditions of giving some sort of semblance of peace process in the Palestine, because that has been a key factor. My understanding of the situation is that Saudi Arabia does want to recognize Israel, but the conditions that are there now, they are not so friendly for Saudi Arabia to do it. But right now, the bigger challenge for Saudi Arabia is the U.S. relationship, and then the kind of indications that Saudi Arabia is getting from Washington, and that suggests that the Americans are no longer committed to the security of the Saudi Arabia. And that is why Pakistan has a role to play in between to have reconciliation with Iran.
Well, I want to come back to you. I'm going to go to Fahim Al-Hameed. Fahim, how do you see, in terms of, we've been talking about relationships as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned with the US and the role Pakistan can play, with regard to that relationship, also, vis-a-vis Iran, Afghanistan also. How do you see Pakistan's role in that kind of scenario at this time, in your relationship with Saudi Arabia's relationship with America, with Saudi Arabia's relationship with Afghanistan?
Well, let me explain a very important thing to our viewers and our distinguished guests. It is very important that Pakistan should have a stability. Saudi Arabia's nation, Saudi Arabia's leaders, wholeheartedly supporting that Pakistan should have stability. One of the main reasons that Pakistan was not able to grab investment from different parts of the world is the instability. Investment needs stability, capital needs stability, security. So I hope that and we are praying that all the time Pakistan should have stability. So business and investment will emerge. I think this is very important factor to have an investment either on bilateral relations or on collective relationship. Number two, I have heard the narrative of your distinguished analyst. Partially I was not able to hear it, but what I have gathered, that the Pakistani investor would like to go deep into the Saudi business. Yes, this is right, but we have to, unfortunately, my dear viewers, that we were not able to institutionalize this relationship. Let me get back to the Saudi Council, Coordination Higher Council, which is headed by the Prime Minister, Honorable Imran Khan, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. Believe me, if we concentrate on this council, we will find ourselves emerging like, in the sky. Number two, you have raised a very important question, which is how Pakistan is repositioning itself in the emerging geopolitical scenario, how Saudi Arabia is positioning itself in the emerging geopolitical scenario. What I feel, in the aftermath of Taliban taking over the whole Afghanistan, I think, we were expecting and we are sure that Pakistan is playing a vital role to convince the Taliban regime to have an inclusive relationship. But unfortunately, till now, we are not having something like that because this is one of the conditions of the international community. I can say that, the foreign minister, Mr. Qureshi, and the ISI chief, Hameed, were in Pakistan in the last couple of days. So what is very important for Pakistan to balance things that, stability in Afghanistan and inclusive government in Afghanistan, so the neighboring countries, Iran, Russia, China, the Tajikistan and Pakistan itself can move ahead in the aftermath of Taliban. Okay. Now, what about Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia, always support the stability of Pakistan, the stability of Afghanistan, and have good relation, neighborly good relation with all. We are at this stage, looking for the strategic interest of the Ummah. And we need Pakistan to be, of course, as always, on the same page, because Pakistan is, as I said, a very strong Muslim country, and we should work together with the main stakeholders in the Muslim world to safeguard the interests of the Muslim Ummah. Today, the Muslim Ummah are facing the worst situation in the history. So, Saudi Arabia, by aligning with Pakistan, with the strategic partner in the Muslim Ummah, I think something good will come out. Otherwise, as you know, how humiliating withdrawal from the Iraq, from the Americans, from Afghanistan. They spend billions of dollars, they spend billions of dollars of aid, and the outcome is zero. So, is American now is trustworthy allies that we can trust? This is a big question. So if we cannot trust, I'm speaking as an observer, we cannot trust our American and other, strong power in the region, then why don't we join hands together between Pakistan and big Muslim countries.
On that note, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your valuable time, Fahim Al-Hameed. I'm going to go to Umar Karim ji. Umar, I hope you've been listening to what Fahim Al-Hameed has been saying. He raised, certain very important points as far as Afghanistan is concerned, and Saudi Arabia's relationship with Afghanistan, also Pakistan, and our regional stability. Do you agree?
Sorry, I couldn't hear what Fahim was saying because I think because of speakerphone issues. But yeah, please.
He's been talking about the fact that Saudi Arabia, of course, will play or will want to play whatever role they can to further stability in Afghanistan, for Pakistan also and for the region also. But in terms of the relationship between Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia traditionally, of course, we've seen, of course, Iran also, and Qatar being a close ally as far as Afghan Taliban are concerned. How do you see that particular relationship panning out as far as Afghanistan is concerned? And of course, we've said the Prime Minister, of course, wants to play an active role in ironing out any issues that Afghan Taliban and Saudi Arabia may have. That relationship would, of course, if it was smoother, benefit Pakistan.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, but let's take a step back and let's be clear that whatever was traditional in Saudi foreign policy or politics, it's right now not like that. Since the transition of power from King Abdullah to King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Saudi politics and foreign policy has taken a very different turn. And even in the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the Taliban government of the 1990s, Saudi Arabia ended its diplomatic ties with the Taliban in 1998 because of differences on the issue of Al-Qaeda and the presence of Osama bin Laden. And right now, I mean, of course, Pakistan can play its role, and Pakistan definitely, its good offices are always open for Saudi government if they want to play a bigger role. But till now, we have seen that the Saudis are reluctant to engage on the Afghan file. And actually, it was quite interesting that the Saudi foreign minister, he chose to visit India, and within India, he did express some concerns regarding the situation in Afghanistan. Although he did reiterate that international community should support Afghan people in terms of humanitarian aid and support. So I think that the Saudis, for them right now, Afghanistan probably is not of a great strategic significance, and already, and because their competition or rivalry with Qatar has been toned down because of the Al-Ula rapprochement. So it seems that they are not really interested in Afghanistan, because otherwise we would surely have seen a lot of activity bilaterally between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan can, like if you want to see this, the Iranians were really anxious about certain developments, and the Iranian Chief of Army Staff, General Bakri, he visited Pakistan. So on the same level, we haven't seen any initiative or diplomatic activity from Saudi Arabia on that. But still, I mean, if Pakistan can convince Saudi Arabia to engage with Taliban, that would be a real big diplomatic success for Pakistan, because right now there are only, I would say, two actors which are active on the Afghanistan front diplomatically or politically. One is Pakistan, another is Qatar, and actually Qatar supposedly is the main go-to actor right now internationally, because a lot of international actors, they are also a bit reluctant to engage with Pakistan. So in this regard, if Saudi Arabia can be brought in, if Saudi Arabia...
Right, fair enough. Let me come back to you. Ji Shakil sir.
I just want to highlight two things. Number one, so Saudi Arabia claims to be the leader of the Muslim Ummah, but they have started to face the challenge not only from Iran, but in a recent times from UAE.
Okay.
So the main point of the conflict between UAE and Saudi Arabia, apart from the economy and other things, that is a challenge of who will be leading the Ummah. So Iran is there, Saudi Arabia is there, UAE is there, and Qatar is also showing the sometimes their muscles, and Pakistan claim we are the only big army, so we have all the rights in Turkey. So in this scenario, Saudi Arabia is facing challenge from with their own allies, traditional allies, UAE. One thing on one side on their challenge to who will lead. Second is Israel is there, so they are making a big time business. Second thing, in the Middle East, there is another dynamic which has emerged in the last especially 4 or 5 years. The role of China. We are ignoring that. Look at the leverage China have over Iran, because China is the biggest partner with Iran right now in terms of the oil, in terms of the trade, and their future investment. And so China also have the leverage with the Saudi Arabia. They have promised to invest in their oil industry, and they are the biggest importer for Saudi Arabian oil. China is, and China also have a good partnership with the Arab countries forum. So they have the leverage, new instruments, and China is in the recent time also emerged as a reliable partner in the security field. Although they don't go for a conflict, but they try to stand with the friends, and now they have all the weapons and instruments of the defense which can ensure the safety and the security of any country. So in the new dynamics, first thing, Iran was selling its role in the Afghanistan at a very higher end. But after Mazar-e-Sharif, no, they are searching in the role where they have to play a role. Because actually from the Mazar-e-Sharif, they wanted to control this the Pakistan as a transit route of Pakistan to Central Asia, or from South Asia to Central Asia, where Mazar-e-Sharif is the hub of that. So in the new realities, so I think Saudi Arabia has also learned. And especially the Crown Prince and the youth and young leadership. First they were very energetic due to Donald Trump, and these are things that are happening like these things. But no, with the passage of the time, they started to learn, no, the things are different.
And also the fact that there is, you don't agree that there's unconventional, I'll come back to you, Javed Sahab, in terms of unconventional reforms, one can say, in Saudi Arabia at place at this time. That also puts Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia not really in the same, because we've seen, with Afghanistan, of course, the issue with women rights and the right to education of women and all of that. So for Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan to have a good relationship, I think those things will figure out.
I think Saudi Arabia has been opening up. It is modernizing itself. And Washington has a lot of role to play in it. And they are actually trimming down its religious literature. They are replacing imams in the mosque. But that is something which has been liked by the West. But at the same time, people point out that there are human rights abuses which at the same time are being ignored. That's maybe just showcasing to the West. But again, there is another factor, and which is very critically important factor. That Saudi Arabia has been traditionally a deeply conservative religious country. The very fabric of the society has been very religious, and all these changes and all this modernization that is being seen by the hardliners, which have good. I mean, they enjoy sport among the society. They see that is something which is not acceptable to them, given the fact that the Saudi Arabia is a very centerpiece to the Muslim Ummah, because it has been having the two holy cities. So I think at the same time it's a very risky for the Saudi rulers to go for such kind of modernization, which come in conflict with the traditional Islamic concept of how should a Islamic country have an outlook, the fabric of society, the role of the women's.
But in terms of takeaways from this trip of the Prime Ministers, how do you see it? I mean, to sum it up, how do you see it in terms of investment, in terms of our mutual areas of mutual cooperation, as far as economy is concerned, as far as our regional situation, Pakistan's own regional situation is concerned, all of those things? How do you see it?
The country that enjoys the maximum influence on Taliban is Pakistan. And because I think Saudis made a mistake that they did not initiate any kind of negotiation with the Taliban, the kind of relation that they had 20 years ago. And Saudi's role has already been replaced by the Qatar. And I think Pakistan can play again a role to bring Saudis back to Afghanistan, to have some kind of role, maybe in terms of providing humanitarian assistance. That is just one part of it. But at the same time, Saudis are also conscious of the fact that the Iranians have been hands in glove with the Taliban over the last 2 decades. They've been providing them weapons, and they've been having good relations with them. And for Taliban, it is not that easy now to cut off their ties with Iran and go with the Saudi Arabia. So I think Taliban are very sharp players. They are going to strike balance in terms of having a relation with Saudi Arabia and Iran, and also with Pakistan. So Pakistan certainly has a role to play, but Saudis have frankly missed the train. It will take time to come back to the same position, the kind of the relation that they had with the Taliban 20 years ago.
Right. Umar, unfortunately we're running out of time, but your quick comments on how you see this particular visit of the Prime Minister, its effects on our bilateral relationship, to sum it up, and on economy, investment. Do you think that it will open new doors perhaps for Pakistan also?
I think a very important point here is that Pakistani government's initiatives in terms of environment, specifically the billion tree tsunami project and other green projects, they are really very highly appreciated within Saudi policy-making quarters. So that's actually a prime reason why a Prime Minister has been invited. And now it's up to Pakistan to play up these positives within Saudi audiences, and also to attract as much investment in various sectors, even in these environmental sectors and hospitality sectors, in addition to reviving all the promised investments. The relationship is growing stronger as compared to older times, like 2 years ago. So it's only getting closer, and I think that there will be good news for Pakistani people from an economic perspective.
Right. On that note, thank you so much for being with us. Shakil Ahmed Rame, thank you for joining us. Javed Rana, thank you for being with us. Fahim Al-Hamid was with us. Thank you for being with us. Umar Kareem, thank you for being with us today. Of course, this visit of the Prime Minister is targeted to have, among other things, an impact on economy, investment between the two countries. One hopes that the goals there will be realized between the two countries in areas of agriculture, other mutual cooperation. Of course, oil is a huge issue at this time. Energy, all of those things can be tapped, and we will have some sort of tangible outputs out of this trip. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.